This is proper fun. So I just wanted to know, because obviously I desperately want to know what happens next. I just wondered if you guys, I'll start with you, Bilal. Like, did you get all the scripts through in one sitting, or did you have any kind of anxious waits like I did?
No, I very much had anxious waits like you did. Like it was really interesting. We got the first three scripts, like which was block one of filming, and then at the end of block one we got the next three scripts. So like we were experiencing in live time the revelations of the characters almost as quickly as the audience were. And actually I think that was really helpful for us because plots is like twisting and surprising. Like it's quite hard to hold all of that in your head and in the performance. And actually like these characters are just like going through the most insane stuff like all the time. So it was quite good actually just to have those three first scripts just to manage it in and of themselves and like almost play it in live time.
Yeah. Because Vivian, I mean, how was that kind of experience? Because I guess I've always thought this about actors is that you're supposed, the whole point is you're supposed to be playing a character who has no idea about their future, but you've always got that superior knowledge where you know exactly what's going to happen in their future. So you've got to play them in the present with that and try and block out that kind of knowledge. So is it quite helpful having a role like this and not having that kind of forward thinking, and you can just play things in the here and now?
Yeah, I think for the amount of twists and turns that take place in this series, it just probably would have been counterintuitive to try and like back work some sort of arc from like where they end up to where they like, because it's just bonkers. Like you can't, and having any semblance of knowledge of like what's to come and like that reading whatsoever in against the backdrop of the zaniness of the situations, I think wouldn't have been good. So I think it actually was incredibly useful to find out what was happening in real time.
Yeah. Because I'm not much of a binger when it comes to TV series. I like the old fashioned one episode a week type situation. But on this instance, I watched one, I watched another one. I need to watch more. What are your guys' relationship with kind of TV content? Do you binge?
Yes.
Yeah. We in fact when we were in Liverpool, we would often spend the weekends binging film and TV together. I think it depends on the show to be honest. Like I think there are certain shows that are more catered towards like weekly viewing. And there are some that aren't. I mean, I grew up loving the X Factor and Strictly Come Dancing and EastEnders. So like for
Every Saturday.
every Saturday, Strictly, then
Yeah.
X Factor, and then you know all of the other like It Takes Two and all the other the other shows afterwards. But
Yeah.
so I've always been a fan of like weekly television, but then I think the streamers have provided such a opportunity for like the indulgence of binging,
Yeah.
um, and like that. I think there are certain shows that are really catered towards that.
Mm.
Yeah, it takes me back. We used to watch. I mean, I'm old enough that we watched the X Factor, or well, Pop Idol, when it was Gareth Gates v Will Young. My mum got loads of badges made that said we're voting Will.
No way.
Ridiculous. But so it's weird because I watched this show yesterday. I watched two episodes yesterday, and then I was out in Soho yesterday afternoon. I was in Cafe Nero kind of early evening to get some work done, and there was this group of friends sat on a table next to me, and it was a few girls and a kind of guy, and they were talking about dating and stuff. And all I can remember thinking was, gosh, they sound just like Jess and Elliott do, which kind of shows how authentic the dialogue and relationship between the characters is within the show. I just wondered, is that something you can recognize in a script instantly? Can you tell right away when something just feels genuine and unrealistic in terms of the way people communicate with each other?
100%. I always feel like dialogue that's easy to remember often is indicative of the fact that it's just there's a flow to it and like a melody in it, which I recognize or feels familiar, whether that's like and it doesn't necessarily mean it's contemporary, but it's like the melody within it, and it's definitely had that. And I felt like when I went into the audition room with Bilal, like there was an ease and like a synergy which we immediately relaxed into, which was facilitated by the dialogue, which was super real. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I remember the first tape I had to do, the first audition was the opening scene that Jess and Elliot have on the sofa. And I didn't actually have that much time to prepare it, but because the dialogue was so well written, it didn't need that much time because actually it felt I could read it in my voice and like as we were saying, like the syntax and the grammar and the pace and yeah, it just felt very real.
Yeah, and some of it's very funny. I mean, there's one scene which really cracked me up. It was when I think when Peter said it's cake, is he dead? It's cake, dickheads. Was that what it was? Was it dickheads? I can't remember what Peter said when he came to the crime scene at the beginning of the second episode.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was there much like, because that struck, well, I don't know if that is improvised, but was there any room for kind of like improvisation, and was there quite a lot of freedom on set to kind of have lots of input with these characters?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a environment of real collaboration, and like a lot of the people heading up this project were like young, emerging like artists. Our director of the first three episodes, Sam Arbo, was like similar age to us, so there was like a real common language there. Charlotte obviously is a similar age, and so I think the whole show was a kind of like a real gamble on new and emerging voices, and it meant that there was this kind of like, we could suggest lines on the day or even before going on set. We could add little buttons at the end of scenes. We could add, more space than intended, less space than intended. Like I definitely feel like we were encouraged, Viv and I, to like take real ownership over these characters, and yeah.
And it's a bit of a spoiler alert with this question, but it's, well, for the first episode, but the cake fingers, did you get to eat any of those?
We wouldn't have wanted to. That was on the floor for a long time.
Very long time. Very long time.
I thought maybe there'd just be a big pile of them on the side.
There is like a sick part of your brain where that wants to eat it, though, obviously. But no, we weren't allowed.
But do you guys keep like souvenirs from shows you make? I know, is it like, I know some actors like to always take a little kind of momentum, some sort of, it doesn't have to be anything big, like I'm not asking, if you're on Star Wars and you take a whole lightsaber home, but even just like a little pin or a little hairband or something that reminds you of your experience.
I have one of Jess's necklaces, and you do always end up with a million pairs of socks, but that's never intentional. But I don't have any memorabilia from the show. It was such a specific set. It actually would have been a good set to take something from, but I don't actually think I have.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't think I ever take stuff. I just have the scripts. I keep all the scripts of like the stuff I've done, like the notes and stuff. But I don't think like often like. It's a bit like when you listen to a song that you haven't listened to in like a long time. When you see like a bit of like a pair of socks, something, you're kind of like, I actually don't think I want to put them on. Like that's a different person, like.
Yeah, 100%.
I felt like, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
But how was it filming in Liverpool? Did you guys? I'm not sure what it's like on most shoots. I know everyone will be different from the last, but did you get the chance to kind of get to know the city much, do some sightseeing, do the Beatles tour, or like go to Anfield or anything like that?
Yeah, it was really amazing filming there. Like I've spent a bit of time in Liverpool already. Like some of my friends grew up there or on the Wirral as well, but never for this amount of time. And whilst the schedule was really hectic, like we were filming basically all day, Monday to Friday often. It was amazing to be able to like explore the city like through doing the filming actually, and like by the end of the process, I feel like we had such an amazing knowledge of the city, but through the story of Elliott and Jess, which felt quite magical. Now I kind of think of Liverpool as like this place, this place where the story happens, which is quite lovely. But we met like a lot of the crew was from Liverpool, a lot of the team was from Liverpool, and it was so lovely to hear like their stories of growing up there, how it's changed over the years after it got made like City of Culture in 2008, and now it's like it feels like it's really a very historically very interesting place. So it was, yeah. I'm looking forward to going back.
Yeah. I think last time I went, I tried a battered burger, which was wouldn't recommend that if you go back to season 2.
Doesn't sound appetizing.
Yeah. But I wanted to talk a moment about Vivian, about your Bafta nomination, because it's so good. I mean, it's a richly deserved nomination for Best Leading Actress, of course, but Rye Lane is such a great film. I mean, I spoke to you obviously before Christmas about it, and it was so immensely popular, but you can't have envisaged this when making it. I guess if any kind of small budget kind of indie film, it's so hard to picture that life for it, but you must be just overwhelmed and thrilled for not just yourself, but the whole project.
Yeah, mostly the latter, to be honest. Like it's kind of hard to like look at the achievements that are specifically for you because they just feel so overwhelming. But I'm just so happy so much love was poured into that project, and to see like the outcome is crazy. Yeah, I'm very overwhelmed.
Yeah. And where were you when you found out? And who was the first person you told when you got?
Yeah, I don't know the story. Well, were you?
We have spoken about this. I was in Atlanta, and so it was 7 a.m. and I woke up and I literally was like, this what? Like I was like, this can't be right. But my phone was like buzzing because I felt like, you know, like to be longlisted, and that was an incredible long list. And I thought, this is already too far. Like this already feels like a meme. But just happy to be here, you know. And then yeah, to wake up to the shortlist, I was very disorientated. And I like spoke to my publicist, and like I called one of my best friends, and she was with two of my other best friends, and we were all screaming. And then like I called my mom. I just, and then I went back to sleep because I was like, maybe I'm having some sort of extended dream, but it was real. It still is real. So
I don't mean to make you blush, but Bilal, I mean, it's so deserved, isn't it? I mean, it's such a great performance. So
Vivian Oparah is about to take over the world.
Y'all stop. Y'all stop. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I'm cutting. Vivian Oparah is about to take over the world, and I hope the world is ready, because I don't think I was so excited. I found out. I also woke up. I was in America, and I woke up and immediately voice noted you.
Sent me the most beautiful voice note.
So yeah, so deserved, and yeah, I'm so excited to see you.
See you there.
It's amazing because I'm interested to know, because I feel like with actors, particularly kind of young actors who are kind of still kind of like finding their feet in the industry, even when you have a recognition like this or an accolade like this, does it still feel like you've made it, for use of a better word? Because I know it's one of those industries and those professions where there's such a long period of trying to figure out, is this what I do? Am I an actor? Am I kind of making it now? Because you're kind of judged a little bit on your roles or your projects, and sometimes it's small little parts on stage and all these kind of things. I wondered if there's a sense when you get an award recognition like this, or even just a lead role in a TV series like Dead Top, do you ever sort of go, hang on a minute, am I actually doing this? Am I making it? Or is that sort of same sense of kind of insecurity always still prevalent?
I think it depends on what your personal goals are. For me, I feel like this is still just the beginning. To be like recognized at that level is crazy and like a blessing and like a huge honor, especially alongside everyone else. But I feel I still have so many of my own personal goals which I haven't fulfilled yet. And like yeah, so you kind of have to have the discipline to stay on track and to like not get sucked into the allure of like the achievements. But yeah, there's still a lot to do, I feel like, for myself.
Yeah, definitely agree. Like, I think it's just about like your values and what you want to say and what you want to get out of these stories that you're telling. And yeah, I guess like a lot of I remember like I was watching an interview with Elizabeth Debicki, who plays like Princess Diana in the most recent 2 seasons of The Crown, and she was like, to be honest, like the moment of joy is like when you hear you get the job, but the moment of dread is before, when you're auditioning and you think you haven't got it, and then afterwards when you're like, okay, I've got to do this now, you know. I think a lot of like our lives are like spent like having specific goals in mind. Like when we were doing Dead Hot, like I tried to remind myself that this is like an amazing opportunity, but like my priority was just trying to tell the story as best as I could, you know. And I think always like with our, you know, with goals and stuff, it's important like to have that, like the immediate one in line. So yeah, I guess this is just the beginning.
But do you think there's, I'm interested in going back to the kind of show, because obviously Elliott, the character, feels a kind of pressure, especially kind of internally from his family, to kind of portray a certain image of himself, to project an image of success, I suppose, in some ways. Do you think that's something that, because obviously this show has got so many unrelatable aspects, you know, in terms of the whole kind of setup and the kind of coming home to find a finger and a missing boyfriend and all that sort of stuff. But do you think that aspect, the family dynamic, is one of the things that is more easily to connect with in some ways, the more kind of human side? Because I guess in some ways we all try and give a certain image of ourselves to our loved ones.
I think definitely, like, you know, like I think in no matter who you are, like if you have certain identity traits that, you know, have been marginalized over history, like queerness, like a lot of your adolescence and growing up does involve code switching, you know, in various different contexts, whether that be with family or with friends at school, outside of school. And I think I definitely wanted to, with that plot line, try and like get across the kind of trials and tribulations of having to like mold your identity to different people and their expectations of that. So yeah, I hope that like, even though like it's a very campy, insane like atmosphere in that weird castle, I hope maybe there's some reality to what the emotional core of that relationship is.
I didn't even know there were castles in Liverpool, to be honest.
There are.
You learn something every day. But my final question, I know it's the most generic, obvious question to end an interview on when you've done the first season of a show that's quite enjoyable, but could there be more, do you think? Are there any, I know, I'm sure you guys, I mean, you guys get a real sense you really enjoyed making it, but when do those discussions kind of happen? I know we're still focusing on the first series, but is that something that has been spoken about at all?
I think I really don't know actually the answer to that question. I think that's like a conversation for the production and writers before it becomes a conversation for like actors and stuff. So I'm not really aware like in terms of what's going on, but watch this space, I guess.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey You Guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!